Hi, my name's Sam Woodnut, and I'm the first author of Could Artificial Intelligence Write Mental Health Nursing Care Plans? So, we'd previously written a paper on how well AI, artificial intelligence, could perform in an academic context. And this was an application of AI into a direct clinical care context. And before I go any further, I should note that no patients were involved in this study. And what we did was test the output from AI based upon entering fictional and minimal information. So, first of all, what is AI? And specifically, what did we use? So, we used something called ChatGPT, which is a large language model. Now, large language models are basically more sophisticated versions of probability based language generation software. So, that's the kind of software that's in your phone, in your text messaging app, and in search engines. So, if you start typing a word, you will get suggested words that are based on a probability function. So you can then use that to complete the word you're trying to type. So if you go into your phone and you type the letters LUN, you're probably likely to get a suggestion of a word like lunch, because that's a really commonly used word in the English language. And it's a word that a lot of people probably enter into text messages and into search engines. However, you're probably not likely to get a suggestion of a word like lunting. Although that starts with the same first three letters, lunting refers to walking while smoking a pipe. So it's not really a commonly adopted behavior, and therefore it will have a very low probability attached to it because it has fallen out of use as a term or as a word. Now, what we don't really know about large language models is, well, what dictionary are they using? What are those probabilities? So therefore, what are the biases? What's it being trained on? Which words or phrases or ideas might be really probable and which might be really improbable? We don't know those things. So we can't really judge the quality of the output until we get it. So we put some really basic commands into ChatGPT around a fictional patient, and we got an output. And that output, at first superficial glance, seemed reasonably appropriate, but there were some significant issues. And the first really obvious issue is that there was the potential of the removal of the humanness in the kind of caring context. And that's really important because we know in mental health care that small dose psychological intervention, such as positive messaging or basically kind of being present with someone, is really effective. We were also really concerned about the possibility that a large language model could recycle stigma. So, of all of the information in the world, peer reviewed scientific literature and approved guidance is a reasonably small proportion. Therefore, those sorts of ideas, that kind of lexical field is less likely to be represented in a large language model. And that's problematic in itself if it's running off a frequentist probability assumption. The final major concern we had was policy and whether or not existing policy and care is set up to safeguard patients. So, although the kind of publishing industry, and particularly academic publishing industry, has made some really clear distinctions on content creation AI, no such distinction is often made in policy. And that's difficult because when it comes to patient safety, a lot of the time we really care about whether or not something is done rather than how well it was done. Of course, we are concerned about the quality, but the focus initially is often about the presence of whether or not a certain aspect of care had been completed. So, where might artificial intelligence be useful for us today? Well, actually, if certain aspects of care have been standardized, perhaps there is a potential for a degree of automation in the analysis process. Perhaps we could train a large language model to analyze large passages of text. because that may be within the same lexical field. The difficulty with that is we know that there's cultures of practice across mental health care, and that at all levels, so individual practitioner, ward, hospital, organization, country, there are different practices and there are different cultures. So that in itself is problematic. So based upon these concerns, we can only give the recommendation at present that the use of AI in this context should be avoided until further research is done to understand how large language models work and the impact of their use in care on the people we are providing services for.